to the second episode of the Bears Den. With you as always, your hosts, Filippo Mazza and Cimino, always with me.
Always glad to be here.
Today on our show, we're getting into a little bit more festive spirit with our teams here. This idiot over here with the Montreal Canadiens and Charleston Chiefs, baby.
Go Habs, go. 10-1 last night.
Handsome brothers, let's go. Today we have soccer, football, baseball, and our game of the week. And the last part of our segment today is basketball. Starting off the show, we have TFC taking a hard loss last night in penalty kicks, 5-4 to Seattle. Looking back last week, remember we had the predictions. I had said that it was a too good to be true story that TFC would unfortunately lose, and they did. Alex had Toronto FC winning. It's a tough loss. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it was a great game played by both teams, and I also think that it was just crazy to see it December 10th, a game being played -4 weather at BMO Field. Yeah. But all in all, if you watch the game, TFC controlled most of the game, and I'm just shocked that they didn't put one in before. And I think Greg Vanny did mess up on a couple coaching mistakes. I think he brought Ricketts in a little too late. He brought him in late into the game, way late into extra time.
Took out Giovinco.
For Giovinco. I also think it was just a wrong decision. I mean, when you're a coach, you got to be thinking past extra time. You got to be thinking past extra time in a penalty kick and who your kickers are going to be, who's going to be taking the shots for everyone. And when I saw Giovinco come out, I thought it was a big mistake because he's probably going to be 90% of the time he's going to score.
He's at least, if not the best, one of the best in the MLS for taking his kicks.
PKs, right?
Look at your best managers in the league, not in this league obviously, but in the world. Antonio Conte. Remember, Italy played Germany in kicks. He took out Chiellini in favor of what should have been a better kicker, but whatever.
And exactly what you should be doing in that scenario is
focusing on PKs.
Seattle was not pushing at all. They might have had 2 or 3 shots the whole game.
You could tell they were playing kicks.
TFC was all over them. They were all over them the whole game. And I just think if you added another attacker, it wouldn't have hurt that much for PKs. And it bothered me to see Giovinco come out like that. You could tell he was frustrated. He threw his gloves after that. He wasn't happy about that. I thought it was a wrong decision from Greg Vanny. Also, that's all I got to say about that. I just think the ref was also, I haven't seen, he put his whistle away, basically. I've seen a lot of bad fouls that are just routine fouls, free kicks, and nothing was going TFC's way, and in the end...
Well, that's true, but at the same time, you can always blame refs. In any sport, you can always blame the refs, but it's your job to try and play through
that. Right, and I'm commenting on the game. I'm just saying what I saw in my perspective.
Well, because it's terrible to see, because the ref's job is supposed to control the game and let the players play. When refs do that, you're really ruining the game for the players in general. They're making it all about them.
Yeah.
And you're robbing these kids, well, not kids because they're adults, but you're robbing these guys of a chance to play a fair game that they wanted, they've played their whole life for. Toronto grinded their way to this final with wins against Montreal, and to get cheaped out like that, nobody wants to see that, and it happens. I mean, it's terrible to see, but you know what?
You could tell from the first minute of the game, there was a foul right off the bat, and you could tell all hell was going to break loose from that, because the ref didn't man up and give a card, and everyone knew they were going to get away with it, and that's what happened.
It's supposed to be their job. Right off the bat, it's supposed to be their job
Lay
to
down
control
the rules.
The game, let people know, because you do have certain refs. You have certain refs that will give too many yellow cards, and you don't like those refs, but at least they're consistent. They'll give a yellow card in the first 5 minutes so you know, hey, I can't make tough challenges this game, this guy's going to call it.
Yeah.
But if you don't do stuff like that, and you put it away and you make inconsistent calls, nobody knows how to play that game. You can't play consistently, because you don't know what's going to be called and what's not going to be called, and you can't play your game.
And what happened? The game got out of their hand.
Which is
fans weren't happy. They were throwing streamers at the Seattle players taking the corner kicks.
You don't want to piss off Toronto fans. That's for sure. You've seen what they can do, and they're some of the most opinionated, some of the most hardcore fans. And you don't want to piss off Toronto fans. That's for sure.
And also, if you're watching the PKs, I got to give credit to Stephen Fry. He played in a tremendous game in net for Seattle.
Former TFC goalie, by the way.
Goalie. Came to play, robbed Josie Altidore of a goal on a header, just reached back and saved it. And he guessed right every single time on the penalty shots. Every single time he guessed right. Now that's amazing. That is really good to see from a goalkeeper. On the other hand, you had Edwin in net for TFC, and he guessed wrong every time. Every time. He made one save. Sorry, I shouldn't say he guessed wrong every time, but
You can't guess wrong if you make a save.
yeah, you're right. You're right. But to me, it looked like he was just hoping that the ball hit.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in here because I'm a keeper myself.
Mhm.
I play keeper for soccer. Okay, it's not the easiest thing
No,
in the world.
no.
Okay, especially when you're dealing with professionals. They know how to deceive you with their eyes,
Yes.
with their body position. I get that. However, I do see where you're coming from. Because they practice this kind of stuff on a day-to-day basis.
And
so
I
you
just
should
think-
be able to get stuff
I
like
think that Fry was just more prepared and more experienced than Edwin in PK. That's why I was scared when I saw TFC getting in PK. Number one, they didn't have a Javinko out there, and you could tell the guys were nervous.
Yep.
And also, I knew Fry was hot that game, and I just had a feeling that was it. But in the end, it was a great game to watch. For sure, one of the most entertaining 0-0 games that I've ever watched in my life, and it was great for the city of Toronto. Just electric crowd, and you got to give
Well,
it
you
up.
can think too, because home field advantage is a thing that people spout off every single
Yeah.
time anybody plays at home, but it can also be a disadvantage because when you go into PKs like that, you got hundreds of thousands of people
Watching
screaming at you to
Hopefully-
maybe make this goal. That's a lot of pressure on your shoulder. It's easy for Seattle to step up because if they miss, they missed. Okay,
Yeah.
their fans are not going to be on them or
Yeah.
anything like that because they're in Toronto. That's what Toronto wanted them to do. If you're a Toronto player and you miss, look out. Because then you got a lot of people coming down on you, and you know you're putting 10 times the pressure on the next shooter. Because he has to score, or else the place is just going to go nuts. And if he does score, then the place goes even more nuts because, you know, they're back into it. So sometimes home field advantage is not an advantage, but sometimes you got to deal with that.
Yeah, and like I said, it was just a great game to watch and a great game for MLS. And hopefully we see TFC there next year. I think Javinko will stay. I think most of the core players will stay, so I think we'll see TFC back in the playoffs again for sure next year.
Hopefully their goalie can take some lessons and learn how to do
Yeah.
PKs for next year then.
For
maybe.
sure, for sure. And it all comes with time. Like I said, their back line had a. You know what? I was surprised they had a good game. They stayed strong and they made mistakes, which is always gonna happen. But they made it up for it and they played a strong game and they worked hard. You can tell that whole back line works hard for their team. They know they're not the greatest, but they work hard. And I gotta give full credit to them. But like I said, that's gonna come with time. Back line will get stronger and all of TFC will get stronger with time. So that's what I gotta
I'm gonna
say.
ask you one last question
Yeah,
before we
for
move
sure.
on from here.
For sure.
Do you see TFC coming back to the MLS Cup final next year?
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say I'll see TFC next year. I just think, you know what? They've worked hard and they've seen what it's like and they want to come out for vengeance because they just got robbed of an MLS Cup title in their home barn.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'll say we'll see TFC back again next year.
You know what? Because of the fact that I said that they would lose the game, I am feeling a little bad. I'm going to say they're going to come back next year as well. Because you know what? I don't see them making too many changes in the offseason where they're going to lose a lot of their... I don't see that happening. A lot of their players are still under contracts. They should be good to go. I think they should be okay.
Yeah.
So, moving on. We now have our NFL predictions for Week 14. We take a look at last week, at Week 13. Those of you that do know, Cimino took the predictions quite a bit in that last week because if you'll notice, all the games that both of us agreed that the team would win, they did win. The teams that we differed on winning, Cimino won every single one of those predictions except for
San
one.
Diego game.
Thank you, Tampa Bay. You guys got my back because the Bucks won that game against the Chargers that I picked the Bucks to win. He picked San Diego, so that was the one game that I got over him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really want you guys to tune into the show and subscribe to Filippo Mazza. If you're in a fantasy league, listen to my predictions because I'll tell you I'll get you far.
Well,
Don't worry
he'll
about
know
it.
more than I will, that's for sure. But anyways, moving on. We have our long pick segment as opposed to our quick picks. As you guys know, we have the big games of the week that we will choose and we will kind of say why we think that team's going to win, and then we move on to the quick picks, which is just firing off who we think is going to win and not very much explanation required. So we'll start off long picks. Redskins versus the Eagles in Philadelphia. Who do you have?
You know what? I'm gonna go with the Redskins for this one. I just think it's time for them to keep going. It's been a up and down season, and right now I think they're gonna go up on this one because Philly's still been struggling. Even though Philly's at home, I think Washington will get the job done today.
I'm going to go with Philadelphia, mainly because of the fact that I picked Washington last week and you guys let me down. Okay, I'm not very happy with that because that's one of like 8 matchups that this guy won over me. So I'm picking Philadelphia. They need a chance to get back into the season. If they want to make it to the playoffs, they're at home. This is the one chance I can see them making a push to finally get into the playoffs. Hopefully Philadelphia wins. If I go like 1-9 again this week, honestly, anything I say, just don't listen to it because last week was a rough week for me. Moving on, we have the Houston Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis.
I'm going to go with Indy again. I like Andrew Luck. He's came back and had an outstanding game. Him and T.Y. Hilton also are always hooking up, and everyone else. And I think Indy will get the job done once again against Houston, who's still without J.J. Watt. And Osweiler, again, like I said before, shows that he can be a great quarterback, but not at this time. I'm going with Indy.
I'm going with Indy as well. Houston last week, like I said, I was very hesitant to pick Houston last week because I know that Brock Osweiler can be an off and on quarterback, and he proved to me last year that he's more off than on. They're struggling as they go further into the season. I guess without J.J. Watt, they're in shambles. I wouldn't go as far as to say that they're in shambles yet because they still have a chance, but Andrew Luck is back, and he had one heck of a game in his first game back.
Really good game, yeah.
Just took it to the Jets, but in Indianapolis, I'm going to go with Indy in this game. Okay, moving on. Denver versus Tennessee. In Tennessee, who do you have?
Well, DeMarco Murray, I like that. And you know what I also like? Marcus Mariota. And you know what I also like? They're in Tennessee. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
You know, I only said that last week because it was the Redskins, and that's what Kirk Cousins
I like it.
So
I like it.
You want to steal my line,
I like
that's fine,
that.
but at least make it make sense.
I like that.
Anyways, Denver, I like that. Anyways, Denver, we've seen that they're a team that can be off and on again. Tennessee, I don't see really as a very good team. They're kind of a mediocre team. You mentioned DeMarco Murray. I'll give you that. But Marcus Mariota, I don't really see as a consistent player in the league, and he hasn't really shown me that much. Denver can be a good team. We've seen that. They can also be a very shaky team. I just think that a team like Tennessee, that they're able to beat despite the fact that Tennessee is at home. Moving on. Arizona Cardinals, Miami Dolphins. In Miami, who do you have?
Arizona, time and again, David Johnson has proven himself over and over again.
You have a real man crush on David Johnson.
He is, well, you know what? When you got to give credit when credit is due, and it is due for David Johnson, leading the league in rushing yards, and he is the best running back in the league. I'm going to stand by that. He has crushed defenses, and he will crush Miami today once again. David Johnson, my man, going with the Cardinals.
You keep mentioning David Johnson, honestly, but hey, what about Ezekiel Elliott, DeMarco Murray, Le'Veon Bell? You have other running backs that are very good.
I know, but
best.
David Johnson is leading the league in rushing yards, and he is also.
Are you sure about that?
I am almost positive.
I'm almost sure that Ezekiel Elliott has led yards in multiple weeks of this season. He might not be leading now,
weeks, but up to date, I'm telling you, it's David Johnson. And you know what? David Johnson is my guy, and he is the man. I'm telling you right now, if you're on fantasy, pick up David Johnson. If he's not
you're saying he's not already taken.
He's already taken.
Who would not take
whoever
David
drafted
Johnson?
David Johnson is a smart person, because he is one of the best running backs in the league.
Anyways, I'm going with Miami in Miami because Miami was on a very hot streak going into last week when they lost. If they want to make the playoffs, they're going to have to win out to get into that wild card spot. Me personally, I don't see that happening. But a team like Arizona, I think they might be able to beat them, and they're going to start making a push for sure to get into the playoffs. So they're going to have to start winning some games. I think this might be one of them that they can win, despite David Johnson. Moving on, we have America's team, the Dallas Cowboys versus the New York Giants. Who do you have?
Going with the Cowboys, time and again. like I said for a few other people, I gotta go with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Dak Prescott came in at the right time when Tony Romo got hurt, and right now people are asking, who is Tony Romo? Who is
Tony Romo? I don't even remember.
And you know what? He's the backup quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is the man. Also, Ezekiel Elliott, one of the best
now you'll give him
one
credit.
of the best.
Now you'll
He's
give
one
him
of the
good
best,
credit.
but David Johnson's the best. He's at the top two. Ezekiel Elliott just crushing it out there. You know what? He looks like he's back in his college days. And also, when you have an offensive line that good, you cannot be that good. Like I said, Dak Prescott knows how to crush teams. I'm telling you. And with an offensive line that good, you know what, Filippo?
What's up?
I gotta tell you.
What's up?
I gotta tell
What's
you.
up?
I have to tell you. This is my thing right now.
What?
Their offensive line has been developed for 5 to 6 years. 5 to 6
I
years.
can't argue with him.
And when you have an offensive line that good, it's just impossible. You know, like you said about the Pittsburgh game.
Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pittsburgh. By the way, I picked Dallas too. In case you're wondering, I picked Dallas. I know he was rambling on there, but I picked Dallas as well because the game against the Steelers, Ezekiel Elliott's winning touchdown, he was untouched to get into the end zone. Untouched. This is unheard of. It's a winning touchdown. You're at the end of the game. You're thinking he might have broken like 1 or 2 tackles. No, nobody touched him because offensive line made the hole. They parted the Red Seas like Moses because they got God looking down on them. They're America's team. And they parted the Red Sea. He went right through the middle, untouched for the touchdown. When you have an offensive line that good, it's a gift from God. They gotta win games.
And you know what, Jerry Jones? This is a personal message from me. If you decide to throw Tony Romo at any point of this season, you're crazy and you're gonna screw up the flow of this team because when you have a team that's this hot right now and getting that ball's rolling so fast right now, I'm telling you, you can't do it, Jerry. You can't. Dak is the man, Zeke's the man, and that offensive line are the people.
You throw in Tony Romo, you're not only going to have him coming at you, you're going to have every single Dallas Cowboy fan wanting your head on a stake. So I would never throw in Tony Romo unless you're
Not at
absolutely
this point in the game. Not
sure.
Maybe to come out
that
and
he
take a
needs
knee
to.
at the end of the Super
That's
Bowl.
what I'm saying.
Maybe,
or
but
if Dak gets hurt, because obviously you're going to need somebody to go in. But if Dak is alive and well, never take him out. Moving on, we went on a long tangent on that one. Green Bay versus Seattle. In Green Bay, who do you have?
Green Bay's at Lambeau Field. I like what they're doing at Lambeau Field. They got a good home base. I'll keep it short and sweet. Green Bay's my team.
I was gonna say Seattle, but you know what? Green Bay's at home. You can't beat Green Bay this far into the season because guaranteed there's probably gonna be snow. You're in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. It's one of the hardest places to play at. Despite the fact that Seattle is having a great season, I don't see them beating Green Bay in Green Bay. Had it been in Seattle with Seattle's 12th man, one of the best fan bases in the league, different story. Green Bay, no, I don't see it happening. Moving on, last long pick that we have is the Monday night game. The New England Patriots, my New England Patriots, the boys, home versus the Baltimore Ravens. Who do you have?
Well, I'll let Filippo talk about this one as Dallas is my team, but I will just hand it over to Filippo. I'll go with New England for this one.
Thank God, because if you had picked Baltimore, I would have strangled you right here in front of this camera, in front of all these people, wouldn't have thought twice about it. Because New England is having a great season. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, unstoppable team. They're definitely going to be a Super Bowl contender even this early into the season, I can tell you. Well, it's not early in the season, it's definitely late, but you get what I'm saying. There definitely are teams that can beat them. We've seen them lose. Baltimore is not the team to do it, though, especially when they're at home. I know that that's a division rivalry. Baltimore's not the team that can take them down. Moving on, we have our quick pick segment. This is when we're just going to fire off who we think is going to win. Very little explanation. Starting off, real low-life matchup. Jets versus the 49ers. Who do you have?
Jets.
I have the Jets as well. Moving on, Cleveland Browns versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Who do you have?
Gotta go with Cincy.
I'm going to go with Cleveland, and I'm going to explain why just for this one. Because we all know that Cleveland's obviously going to probably lose this game, but if they win, I look like a genius. If they lose, well, I can see that coming from here. So I'm picking Cleveland. Moving on, Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Who do you have?
Going with Pittsburgh. Just too good of a team right now for Buffalo.
Pittsburgh as well. Moving on, Minnesota versus Jacksonville. Who do you have?
Minnesota or Jacksonville.
Minnesota as
Enough
well.
said.
Minnesota as well for me. Falcons versus Rams. Who do you have?
I'm going with the Falcons.
Go with the Falcons as well. LA's kind of a mediocre team. Moving on, we have the Bears versus the Lions. Who do you have?
Going with the Lions.
Lions as well. Moving on, San Diego versus Carolina. Who do you have?
Carolina.
I'm going to go with Carolina as well just because they need that win. The Bucks versus the Saints. Who do you have?
I'm going to go with the Bucks for this one.
I'm going to go with the Bucks as well just to make my buddy Matt Favit mad because I know that New Orleans is not a very good team and Tampa Bay can beat them. So, to recap, the long picks, I have the Eagles, you have the Redskins. We both have the Indianapolis Colts. You have the Titans, I have the Broncos. You have the Cardinals, I have the Dolphins. Both of us have Dallas. Both of us have Green Bay. Both of us have New England. Both of us have the Jets. I have Cleveland. You have Cincinnati. Both of us have Pittsburgh. Both of us have Minnesota. Both of us have Atlanta. Both of us have Detroit. Both of us have the Panthers. And both of us have the Bucks. Moving on, college football playoffs next weekend. I know that you haven't been paying that much attention to it. You're still there, but I'm going to talk about college football because, in my opinion, I like college football more than NFL because I just think that the kids want it more. They have more to lose. They're not worried about, pro contracts or anything like this. It's just about the sport for these kids. So, let's talk about it. We have Alabama versus Washington, the 1 versus the 4 seed in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I still don't like that name of the bowl. I think it's a little childish, but anyways, moving on. We have number 2 Ohio versus number 3 Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. Topping off, Alabama, Washington. I'm going to start this one off. I think Alabama's going to take this one. I don't see any doubt in my mind that they're going to do so. Washington made it into 4th, and a lot of people were upset at this fact because they didn't play very tough competition on the way in. So it was pretty easy for them to win a lot of games. They did have better records than teams behind them, but you got to look at strength of schedule. So Alabama, though, is always a consistent number 1 seed when it comes time for the college football playoff. And I just don't see any team that's going to be able to beat Alabama, especially Washington. Do you have any thoughts on this game at all?
I'll go with Bama for this one. There's just been a really strong college between the years, and I think they'll be just fine against Washington.
I agree. Moving on. Number 2, Ohio versus number 3, Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. Look at Clemson. They have a quarterback that was a Heisman candidate. Obviously didn't win it. Lamar Jackson from Louisville took that. But Deshaun Watson, still a great quarterback. He's playing against Ohio State, though, who I don't believe deserves that number 2 ranking because they didn't even win their conference. Okay? And I think that game against Michigan was touted too highly in their favor because it was an OT win. So it wasn't like they took it to Michigan. They just barely squeaked out against them. I don't know if they deserve a number 2 ranking. Other people could argue that. This is going to be a tough game for me, though. I'm going to go with Clemson, though, just because of the fact that Deshaun Watson is playing a great season. Like I said, Ohio, I don't know if they deserve that high of a ranking, and I would love to see Clemson take them down and then have an Alabama-Clemson final. Any thoughts on this one?
I'm going to go with Ohio for this one.
Okay.
I like them throughout the years, and I think they'll be okay.
Moving on, we have the Jays. As you guys know, it is news that they are borderline confirmed that they will not have Edwin Encarnacion returning for the season. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know what? I'm absolutely astonished that he wouldn't agree to a 40-year, $80 million offer. I mean, Edwin, you've been there for 5 years. It's your home, over 5 years, sorry. And you've built a really strong legacy there. And, I mean, $20 million for 40 years, is that not enough? That's my question. Is it not enough?
I'm thinking what happened with him was that after the season that he had last year, he's thinking he's worth more than he is now. Because the fact that he hit the clutch home runs last year. I mean, we were looking at last year him being the new Jose Bautista because Jose was choking. He was choking quite a bit and he wasn't playing very well. Edwin stepped up quite a bit, so I think that either him or his agent is in his ear telling him you're worth more than you are.
And you know what? It's just gonna bite him. Bite him hard because you know what? The market's. It's been reported that the market for him is really crumbling. Teams are starting to not show any more interest in him because he's asking for way too much. Yeah. And the Jays have closed the door. They basically told him, you know what? If you don't want to sign with us, it's time to move on. They picked up Kendrys Morales, a very strong DH from Kansas City, and also Pierce from Baltimore, very sturdy and tough first baseman who will get the ball and play for the Jays. So you know what? Fenneman's not going to come back.
So do you think Toronto's going to be in trouble without Edwin?
You know what? If with their 2 new players, I just think they'll be okay. It's gonna be hard to move on from that, but they won't be as bad as people are gonna think. It's not gonna be a complete rebuild. They're gonna be almost just as good. They're just not gonna hit as many home runs.
I'm going to agree with you on that one because of the fact that if Bautista steps up and has the season he had 2 years ago, not the season he had last year, they'll be just fine because he's hitting home runs at clutch shots.
But Bautista might not also be signing with them either.
That's true because they're talking about that too as well.
He's overpriced. Another person who's overpriced himself to other teams, and other teams who said they would show interest aren't showing interest.
Yep.
And now he has to come back to the Jays. He's talked to everyone. He's not the NL has told him that you're not an NL type of player. He's not good enough of a fielder, and also American League teams aren't showing any more interest in him. So now he has to come back to the Jays. Hopefully they can strike up a deal, and he can realize that either put your money where your mouth is or just play baseball.
To close the show, we have our game of the week, which this week is Bears basketball. The Bears took on Lively Hawks this week in a rivalry game. It was a close game from start to finish, a very low-scoring game. St. Ben's was battling uphill for most of the game, but managed to come out with the win, despite some very poor officiating, which I could attest to because I was there recording stats. Not a very good shooting game, though, as you can see, because if I will look through the stats here, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 made field goals. Out of a possible, let's see here, 5, 8, you have over 30, which is
in 2 players.
And no, not in 2 players. Over the team. Around 25, 30 missed field goals. It's not a good shooting team. Look at 3-pointers. There was only 1 3-pointer made by Anthony Zilio. Out of let's see here, we have 8, 9, 10, 15. 1 out of 15.
Yeah, and you know what? I had a pretty good view from the bench, so I'll talk about this a little bit. It was a very slow start for the boys. We had 10 points in the first half, which isn't normal to see in a basketball game. Just a lot of missed shots, but we showed heart and compete near the end of the game, and we worked hard, and we ended up getting a W, which counts the most, is getting a W.
Yep, and you look at it, you guys, it was really... free throws, you guys, was where it really counted because you guys started putting in a lot of free throws, and that really helped you guys out quite a bit. Which brings us to the next point. Player of the game, Max McGilvery, with, I have 8 points. No, not 8 points. I apologize. Excuse me. We have 12 points, 3 rebounds. Oh, sorry. Oh my goodness, I'm out of it today. 3 steals, 4 rebounds, 1 block, and a foul. 4 3-points attempted, none of them went in. Still played a great game. He had some clutch steals in that game, as we will head to our highlights right now. You look at this one right here. Steals the ball, comes all the way down, makes a tough layup, and gets the N1.
Max McGilvery is just your complete basketball player. Great two-way player. He on defensively, he's very quick and very good ball handler. He can shoot. Although it was a little bit of a rough going at the start.
Yeah.
It just all comes with time, and he's a very good player, and he's committed to the game. And he's a very dedicated player, and he'll be very good. And we're going to need him this season.
Well, speaking of, you said two-way player, we'll head to this highlight right here. Check out the block that Max McGilvery puts on this Lively player, okay? This is a clutch situation where you need somebody to make a defensive play.
effort, and he comes out
and comes up big in this block.
Big block, yeah.
Moving on, we have a guy like Mark Tom, who doesn't get as much playing time, but when he's out there, boy oh boy, check out this crossover. Coming down the left side of the court, behind the back crossover, making the guy look silly. My goodness, I saw this from the side. Your bench went nuts, and I would too, because my goodness, was this ever a good crossover.
Marky made a nice move down the line, and it was awesome to see from Marky. He's been working on that for a while in practice.
Oh yeah. And looking to the last highlight here, we have Kevin McClellan making a nice assist. A good feed here to Anthony Zilio for the only three-pointer of the game.
Yeah, Kevin also very good with his hands, and he's a very smart player. And they got him and Zilio got very good chemistry. And Kevin likes to dish the ball out, and when he sees an open opportunity, Zilio's going to shoot it every time, and usually it goes in. He's a very good shooter. So it was a nice little backhand feed. No one saw that coming, and boom, open three. Could have had a donut and a coffee before he shot that one.
That's true. So last thing I'm going to say before we end the show. Although Max McGillivray was the MVP, Kevin McClellan, story of the night, 12 rebounds. Whopping, unheard of. More than Matthew Lubinkov, who, as you know, is a couple inches taller than Kevin. But he's still out there with 12 rebounds.
Yeah.
Just a great story.
Not a side we see from Kevin McClellan. He's not the one to show that he's a feisty type of player. He's usually nice,
Usually
calm,
knows
skillful.
how to
But
play.
he went in there and he worked hard. He wasn't taking nothing from no one. Good on him. Good on the kid.
So that'll do us for today. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Have a good one, folks.
I'm here with Max McGillivray, MVP of tonight's game versus Lively. Max, the officiating wasn't great tonight.
No.
How do you guys battle against that in an uphill battle?
Well, you know, we're a mentally strong team, so we like to keep a level head, you know, and just play through it. We got our captain up there, Alain. He gets a little hot-headed, but you know what? It just heats him up. Heats up the shooting arm.
I got you.
So it's good.
I got you. So, you were 4 for 8 tonight. How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, 50% is not very good, but I mean, it's a career high. So
Career high?
So that's good.
That's a plus. Okay. Final question. What were your thoughts on tonight's game?
You know what? I think it was a big leap for the boys. I think we really developed as a team. We blended nicely. We got to get our chemistry going, which is good. We got our fast break, and we just kept the school tradition going. We're a comeback school.
Sounds
Comeback
good.
school.
Max McGillivray, MVP of tonight's game.